Blog Talk Radio.
Hello and welcome to Blog Talk Radio. This is Lori Smith on Blog Talk Radio. It is Thursday morning, March 4th, 5:30 in the morning, Calgary, Alberta time, and I am happy to be here. I'm just drinking coffee, trying to wake up, and it's bright and early, and I'm happy you can be here and tune in. I know I do have some people that listen early in the morning, and maybe on the East Coast it's not quite as early as it is over here, but I appreciate it. I just thank you for your support. And we'll be on for 15 minutes. We're still talking about this is one child abuse survivor to another. We're still talking about understanding child maltreatment and juvenile delinquency, foundations for effective responses, and that is that you can pull this article up at www.cwla.org, and it's written by Janet Wig, W-I-I-G, J-D-M-S-W, and it's a great article. I like it. I was looking and searching for information regarding, the link between child abuse and child maltreatment and juvenile delinquency, because growing up, I saw so much violence, not only in my own home, but with my friends' families as well, and friends, and also just in the city that I lived in. It was just full of violence, and the school that I went to, the high school especially that I went to, was one of the kind of the notorious schools in the city, and there was gang problems, and there was all kinds of problems there. Regarding violence and youth, and I just grew up with it. I grew up around it. It just seems to me that there is a link between child maltreatment, child abuse, and juvenile delinquency, because I know a lot of these kids that are out here doing these things. You can imagine what their home lives are like, and that's why they're on the street doing what they're doing. And that doesn't mean every single child is in that, who's a juvenile delinquent is abused, but they did say in the original article, the part one of this information here, understanding child maltreatment and juvenile delinquency, the research said that at the time when they did these reports, there was a 21% higher risk of juvenile delinquency when there was abuse in the home, and so it does increase the chance for youth to go on to commit violent crimes if there is abuse and violence in the home, right? So that's what I was interested in looking at, and so I just typed it into my browser, child abuse and juvenile delinquency, and that's what came up. So that's what we're looking at. And I'm just glad you can be here. This is not a professional show. I don't have any professional counseling or counseling or therapist certificates. I'm just a student and a part-time student at MRU, and I'm just doing this blog talk show just because I want to bring information out to people. I don't think enough people are talking about abuse, especially child abuse, and I believe it needs to be front and center. Something needs to be done. Children are dying, and children, and if they don't die, they're just their lives are ruined, by child abuse, from whether it's a caregiver or a parent, And I just, we need to talk about it, and I think people should talk about it. I think more people should be talking about it every single day, because it's such a huge issue. And if it wasn't such a huge issue, we wouldn't be seeing the reports that we do in the news and on the, in the paper and on the news and stuff. And the only time we ever see any of this news is when it's too late and the children are dead or they're in the hospital with serious wounds from abuse. And that's just wrong. And so, we need to start working with our own homes. We need to start working within our own communities, our neighborhoods, our own families, and our own cities and towns, to start making a difference. And it's really going to take all of us to do it. And so I just figured, why not? I'll just get busy and be one more voice out there, especially growing up the way that I did. I thought, I can't sit back any longer and just, move on with my life and forget everybody else, It's so important that we all stand up, whether you grew up in an abusive home or not. These are kids dying, and it's not right, and we still haven't found the answers, and we need to find things that work. And I found these articles, and there's some great information. There is programs in place, but not every city, not every town, not every school. Unfortunately, it's just not, it hasn't been integrated in enough, That's why we still see reports of this happening, right? So much abuse is not reported, and so much abuse is not spotted. And I think that people, if everyone knew the signs and symptoms and what to look for, and were actually cared enough to look and to pay attention, then a lot of these children would not go through a lifetime of abuse and or be murdered at the hands of their caregivers. So, we'll continue right on here. If you're a young person under the age of 18, please listen with someone who's an adult, a mentor, a coach, a counselor, teacher, parent, if you have one who cares, which I sure hope you do. And, just because the topics of abuse are really quite sensitive, and everyone, should, have someone with them especially young people when they're listening to something like that, because they can help with questions and stuff. And if you're a survivor and you think this information might trigger you, then please turn the show off. And everyone, listen at your own discretion. So we're going to get right on to this intervention in response to serious juvenile offenders. That's where we left off yesterday. And I'm just going to read right from the page here. It says, in serious and violent juvenile offenders, Leber, and that's an article by S.V.J. Leber and Farrington summarized considerations regarding interventions and sanctions for these offenders, including a meta-analysis that offers direction as to which programs are the most effective in reducing recidivism for both non-institutionalized and institutionalized offenders. They pointed out that in selecting treatment and sanctions in the juvenile justice system, account should be taken of the severity of the presenting offense, the risk of recidivism for serious offenses, and the individual needs of the juvenile offender, such as academic needs and family support. Interventions for SVJ offenders often have to be multimodal, that's serious juvenile offenders, often have to be multimodal to address multiple problems, including lawbreaking, substance use and abuse, the academic and family problems. The administration of multimodal programs requires the integration of services of the juvenile justice system, mental health, schools, and child welfare agencies. Aftercare programs are essential to reduce the likelihood of reoffending by serious juvenile offenders. The meta-analysis found that for non-institutionalized offenders, the most effective programs to reduce recidivism involve interpersonal skills training, behavioral contracting, and individual counseling. For institutionalized offenders, the most effective programs involve interpersonal skills training, cognitive behavioral treatment, or teaching family homes programs. Furthermore, the effectiveness of programs is enhanced the longer treatment and service are provided. And two recognized programs that have documented effectiveness with serious juvenile offenders are multisystemic therapy and multidimensional treatment foster care. Both of these programs are part of the Blueprints for Violence Prevention initiative, and they go on to explain that actual Blueprints for Violence Prevention initiative. Multisystemic therapy, MST, is an intensive family and community-based program that addresses the multiple risk factors for delinquency in individual youth and the various systems that make up the youth's daily experience: family, peers, school, and neighborhood. It targets violent, chronic, or substance-abusing juveniles who are at high risk of out-of-home placement and their families. The program's primary goals are to assist parents to develop the skills and resources to promote the youth's healthy development and to help youth cope with family, peer, school, and neighborhood problems. MST is home-based, designed in collaboration with family members and guided by a therapist. I mean, that's what our family needed. We needed someone to step in and really make some real difference in our lives, and we just didn't have it. And my brothers, one of them especially, was just unable to cope and was doing a lot of drugs, and he got involved in all kinds of ridiculous things, robberies and different things like that, and got busted, and he spent quite a lot of time in jail. And my other brother, I don't know what he was up to, but he was a cocaine addict, and another one of my brothers did some prison time for something that was just really stupid, and it was to do with a forged check, like a forgery. And my whole family was kind of affected by this kind of stuff, and there was just no guidance at home, and our parents were fighting all the time, and there was a lot of emotional abuse and physical abuse, and it just we needed people to step in, and it just didn't happen. And I don't know if my parents were just really good at getting through the system or what. They must have been, but it's unfortunate, and it leaves a lifetime of problems for a family, and now our family just was ruined and sort of trashed by that. And I know, the surviving members of my family are just, we don't even talk about it because it's so ruined our whole, quote unquote family life, that we don't have any common ground. We don't have anything to talk about as a family of the past except for stuff that, oh yeah, like really stupid things like, oh yeah, mom made a lot of cookies. Because our whole past was just so miserable that there's nothing else we can talk about that'll start a big fight or an argument or, something like that. So we don't have a close relationship, and we can't even heal as a family because of it. Because no one will admit and acknowledge that the problems that were there, and we can't get together as a family and heal because my remaining family members will not acknowledge the abuse and will not acknowledge even that my brothers are dead. So yeah, there's real problems, right? This kind of stuff happens, and it's really sad to see. And I know growing up where in the city that I grew up in, and especially the school I grew up that I was going to, my high school. I went there for 4 years, and we used to have gang problems. We had the SWAT team on site quite a bit. There was news cameras and reporters running around quite often, guns, and police officers shooting kids in the knees, and because they were threatening. Actually, they were ready with their guns to shoot the police officer, so just for their own protection, right? I mean, I actually witnessed it, and just horrible things. They used to do locker searches in the lockers, and they'd find like 80 knives and 17 guns and 2 bombs. And this was just in high school, and tear gas would be going off all the time, and riot teams would be dispersed to our school. We had lots of riots. We had lots of gang problems, and these, you just wonder what's wrong with a city that has so much problems. And that city that I grew up in really had its share of problems. Actually, the whole state does. I'm not sure about today because I don't live there anymore, but I know growing up there, there was so many problems. I think that a lot of these programs that we've been covering here in this Understanding Child Maltreatment and Juvenile Delinquency Foundations for Effective Responses, I think a lot of the programs that we've been reading about all week just were not implemented there. New Mexico is just sort of left off the map, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, oh, who cares about New Mexico, right? So it's kind of a poor state. It used to be anyway. There was not, the economic situation there wasn't that great. Lots of poverty and, a lot of drugs and a lot of problems. And so I grew up around violence and grew up in violence. And, it's a horrible way to grow up. And, and I know that there's people all around the world growing up like that. And so that's why, we really need to look for the answers, and we need to, as a parent, I guess if you're a parent, really push for programs for children, and getting involved within your school and within your children's school, you know what I mean? And we can all make a difference just by finding out who's doing what in our own local areas, right? And find out who's doing what's working, and then build on that. I think that's really important because we have to find what's working and then go with it if it's working, right? Instead of looking to create something new all the time, and then finding out that it doesn't work. We need to build on what's already what's already working, and the strengths of a society, right? So that's just my thoughts on the whole thing. But we'll continue on with this article tomorrow morning. We have about a minute left, and we're going to look at some more at discussion of programmatic responses and things. And I don't know, we'll see how far we can get. It's quite a large article, and I was going to sort of stop reading it, but I thought, no, it's really important that we cover this stuff because there's a lot of kids out there who are involved in violent crime and doing terrible things, and you have to wonder what their home life is like, If you suspect abuse of any kind, emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, you have to do the right thing and report it. I am the Canada Regional Director for Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, and I'm so happy to stand with them. I tell you, this makes me so happy. The education, awareness, prevention, this is what is needed. People need to get involved. Everyone needs to get involved if we're going to make a dent and we're going to make a real positive change in this thing. And kids are dying right now as I speak, and or if they're not dying, they're going to live a lifetime full of scars and horror, in their minds. And if they don't get help, they'll spend their entire lives dead. So it's really important to reach out. If you suspect abuse of any kind, make the phone call, because it's better. You want to save a child's life, right? if there's no abuse, then they're not going to remove them from the home. They can't be bothered. But if there is, they will remove the child, and they will get that child to hopefully somewhere safer. I mean, we know there's still problems in the system, but I think it's all about saving lives, and I really think that it's all about making a difference in a child's life. And I wish that I could open up my home to children. I don't have the finances or the resources to do that, but I sure wish that I could, because I'd sure love to take in a child who needs a home and who needs some love and some real normal family experiences, so that they can build their life. And I think it's just so important to do this, right? Kids don't need to end up in all kinds of institutions and stuff like that. They need homes. They need loving, caring people in their lives. So, I mean, that's all I can say. Well, everybody, you have a great day. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back on tomorrow morning, 5:30, same time, one child abuse survivor to another. And you're all in my heart. I care so much about you. Make sure you reach out and get that support that you need, so that you can go on and have a good life. Take care, everybody. Have a good day. Bye-bye.